Hey guys, I'm just going to show you how to do the poinsettia with the crepe paper. We're going to do just a small one with three petals of each size, small, medium, large, and then 3 leaves. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to pick your color of crepe paper, and I'm choosing white, and you need a strip that is 3 inches. And it doesn't have to be like too exact, so like 3 inches. And then 2.5. Actually, sorry, 2 inches. You actually don't need the whole length, so if you're making like a bunch, or if you're doing this craft day or whatever, then you can pre-cut a whole bunch of these. So this is 2, and then our last strip is going to be 1.5. So it's about there. Okay, so you can put this away, and you got 3, 2, and 1.5. Now you want to cut squares that are 1.5 by 1.5, 2 by 2, and 3 by 3. And I've already done that. So I have 3 squares of the 3 by 3, and 3 squares of the 2 by 2, and 3 squares of the 1.5 by 1.5. And you're just going to take these 3 squares of each size and cut. Do you see how the grain is like lengthwise, like going this way? You want to cut corner to corner, and it doesn't matter if it's too exact, but you kind of want the line, the hypotenuse or whatever, to be pretty straight. So keep those in separate piles so they match up. And then we're going to do the same thing to this one, like that. And then the same for the 3-inch one. And while you're cutting, you should probably be heating up your glue gun. I'm using a fine tip glue gun, but obviously most people don't have that. And so when you're shooting the glue out, you just have to make sure that it is a really thin line, which is not that hard. You just have to take time and patience. Okay, so when you're putting these squares together, the 2 lines of the squares, you want to like go up and up. You see that? Like this. So it's going to form a leaf shape with the veins going up and out. Well, this is upside down, but you see what I mean. So that's going to be a leaf like that with the veins going up like this and this. And I'm just going to pile those 2 pieces together, and I'm left-handed, so I got to do it this way. You can use the template I sent you, or you can just sort of cut a leafy shape that goes like that. This one has a little, I'm a perfectionist. Okay, so like that. And you'll cut those 3 in that size the same. You'll do the same for all of them. So there's that. And then the medium size. So you're going to make the triangles so when you're cutting, the 2 veiny things point up. That's how you get that leaf effect. And then try to cut a leaf shape. You can use a template, but it gets old. So I'm just doing it freehand. And then it's like that. And you'll do that for all 3 of those. And then the 3-inch ones, see how I'm matching up the 2. So the veins are both pointing up when I cut the leaf. Well, poinsettia is all leaf. The only part of that's the flower is the part we think is stamen. So I'm calling these leaves, but they're really like petals. The leaves are green, but you know what I mean. So it's like that. That's a little wide. So if you want to use a template, it'll be more accurate, but they wind up looking good anyway. So there's that. You'll get lots of little scraps. Okay, so I've got 1 of each of these, and I'll go ahead and cut all those, but just for the sake of this video, I'm going to show you how to do the gluing part of the petals really quick. So you're going to take your glue gun and make the tiniest little line of glue from the base to the tip, and making sure that the veins of the petal are going up and out. You're going to overlap this just like that. Okay, if it's gluey at first, it just means you're learning how to do this, so whatever, you'll learn as you go along that you shouldn't put too much glue, but you don't want any gaps so it doesn't fall apart. And if it's not perfectly aligning at the tips, you can use your scissors to cut the ends off and make it nice like that. Okay, and as I go along, I'm going to also show you how to shape the petals. So I don't have any fingernails, my hands are a mess. I take this and I score along the vein line of the paper in intervals so that it creates this like little, you can see, look there, I didn't glue it enough, and we don't want that, so I'm just gonna get a little bit more glue right there, and continue with my scoring, but really lightly, because you don't want to stretch out the crepe paper. So just doing it really lightly and scoring upwards like that. As the petals get bigger in size, you can notice more. And this is a little tricky, but you're just going to take and sort of like go opposite ways with the edging of the petal. You see how it goes like that? And a little bit on this side. Just gently. You don't want to like completely stretch out the crepe paper, but then it creates this like nice petal natural shape. Okay, so you're going to glue and then do that for each one. And that's one of the small. That's one of the small, and you need 2 more, so 3 of those. And then I'll show you how to do this again. This is the medium size, so the 2 inch by 2 inch. And when you're gluing, you want to make sure the veins of the crepe paper are naturally like pointing out and up. And put a thin line along the edge. And then take the other one and line it up as best you can. But like I said, we can trim off the edges like that. Okay, so it's not matching up, but that's okay. You just take your scissors. Now you make it nice. And then, like I showed you before, you're gonna score with your fingernail, same direction as the veins in intervals. And it creates a wavy effect with the petal. And then you're gonna like take the edge and pull it separate ways, but not too hard because you don't want to stretch out the crepe paper. It's pretty delicate, but then it just gives it this nice like rippled natural effect. Okay, so there's one of the medium, and then you want 2 more of those. And then for the large, again, make sure that the veins are pointing out. Take a small thin line of glue and take it, press it down, overlap it, and then trim the edges so they look nice. Okay, and again, we're just going to score the sides going with the grain of the crepe paper. And then you take your fingers and just lightly along the edge pull opposite directions to create a little ripple here and there. Okay? Excuse me. So 1 of those, but you need 3. So I'm going to pause the video and do the other 2 of each size so that we have 3 of each. Okay? Okay, guys, I went ahead and, I went ahead and did my 3 large, 3 medium, and 3 small petals. And just because we're already cutting and gluing or whatever the pieces, might as well finish it up and do the green leaf part. So I chose a dark crepe paper, dark green, to go with the white. I thought it would be pretty. I cut a 3.5 inch wide strip with the veining creping going upward, so 3.5 this way, and then I cut 3 inch up, so it's 3 by a strip of 3.5, and I just cut the 1 3, and then I use that, and it doesn't have to be perfect, to cut more along the strip. So that's how I do that kind of quickly. So you only need 3 of the leaves for our project, so I'll put the others away. And you're just going to cut along the diagonal again to create 2 triangles. And it's okay if they don't go directly, but you want to make your cut line pretty straight. And then I'm going to turn it so both parts have the veins matching and going up like this. And then I'm just going to, you can use the template that I attach, but I'm just going to do it freehand and go it from the bottom, trying to go pretty much all the way up to the top. And you want 3 of those. So we're just going to glue again and make sure that the veins are going up for the leaf. Make yourself a tiny thin strip of glue before it cools. This is ideal. Just stick that on there like that. And the edges are kind of wonky, so just going to trim them. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it's nicer like this. Don't worry so much about the base edge because we're gluing that to the stem. And again, you're just going to score it with your finger at intervals to help it bend and also give it kind of a natural shape. And then take a little bit of the edge and twist it a little bit opposite directions until you've got a cool leaf like this. And you want 3 of those, so I'm gonna do that real quick. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back, and I made all 3 of the leaves, scored them and shaped the edges. Remember, you just sort of pull it like this and you can bend it however you want. And I wanted to show you, I did a little mess up when I was gluing this one. Do you see how the veins aren't both going opposite up directions? I glued it as if I had just cut it there, and that's not going to work, so I have to throw this piece away. But I just wanted to show you what happens, and then, you know, then you can't score it or whatever in the direction you want, and it's no good. So try to pay attention to doing it in the natural form that the leaf makes, rather than gluing it back together just how you cut it, because then you just have to chuck it. Okay, so throw that away. I have 3 leaves, 3 of each of everything. Now, you're gonna use these stamens. I ordered mine on Amazon. You can get them other places, but Amazon is easy. And I'm going to take, I don't know, you could do 8 to 10. I kind of like having a little bit more. I'm gonna match them up. They don't have to be perfectly matched. Let's see, 3, 6, 7, 8. So then we'll have 16 total, because I'm going to fold it in half like that and create this little loopy thing for the center of your flower. Now I'm going to take the glue gun and I'm going to put a little glue there. Now wait a few seconds for it to not be so stinking hot, but then I really just take my fingers. You can find alternate ways to do this, but I'm not scared to get my hands dirty, obviously. And I'm just going to squeeze it and twist it a little, and the glue comes off, so no big deal. But now it sort of stays together like that with the glue there. Ta-da. And see how they're not all matching up at the lengths, and that's perfect. Now you're going to take, like, I think this 18 to 20 gauge green floral wire, and I'm going to take a little tiny strip of glue, and I'm going to place that floral wire there. Just hold it for a bit. Sorry, there you go. Just hold it for a bit. And then I have random green masking tape, and if you can find green masking tape, that's great. I don't really like floral wire. I find it, or floral tape, I find it not sticky enough. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this green masking tape to wrap around the top part, just to make sure it's secure. Not too much like that. But if you don't have green masking tape, you can use regular masking tape. It's not a big deal. Like that. Okay? Now, I'm going to start with the smallest petals, and I'm just going to bend the tip just a tiny bit. See how I bent it? So that I can put a little dab of glue, not too much, but not too little. And I'm going to just place it at the edge like that. Hold it till it sticks a bit. And then do the same thing to the second one. You're going to bend the edge a little, put a dab of glue, stick it. I kind of overlap them a little bit, but I haven't come up with an exact science that I like for it yet. There's that. And then the next one, that one has a little hangnail. Put a glab of dew or a dab of glue. And I think I'll just put it right there. Try not to put too much glue so it's not all globby, but enough so that it'll stay. Okay, there's the smallest ones. Then move on to your medium-sized petals. A little dab of glue. You don't want it to be directly underneath the petal above it, so just sort of rotate a little bit and place it a little bit farther down on the stem. And then you've got the second size coming up. Do the second of the medium-sized petals. Let's see. You don't want it to be directly underneath the smaller one. You just sort of decide where you'd like it to go. Like that. Hold it for a few seconds to make sure it's stayed. And then do, then do your last one. And there's an obvious little gap right there. So, ta-da, there's my 3 medium ones. And you're moving down the stem a little bit. It's going down, down, down. Not too much, but do what you need to do. Now we're moving on to the large petals. And like I said, don't want it to be directly under the one that you just placed. And if you see a gap that it'll fit in, that's where mine is going. Bend the tip, put a dab, and then choose a nice place to put the next one. That's good. Hold it for a few seconds and sort of like squeeze it so it wraps a little bit around the floral wire. And excuse me. The last of the white ones, and then choose your spot. Like that. And now we're going to move on to the green leaves. But like I said, I googled this, and actually all the petals that we think are petals of the poinsettia are actually leaves, and this is the only part that's a flower, which I found super cool. Okay, so there's one leaf, 2 more. I like to overlap them a little bit. Seems more natural. And then one more. Sort of decide where you're going to put it before you glue that last one on there. That's a good spot. Bend the base tip a little bit. Put some glue. And then I'm going to put it right here. Now, this is not super full because you guys are doing this like at a craft day or whatever. And it would take a lot more time to do more petals. But it might look better with a few more petals if you were to suggest that, or people want to spend extra time on it. This one has like 3 of the small ones, but then I started doing like 4 of the medium and 5 of the large, and the effect is nice. I still put 3 leaves, but you can see how much fuller it is than this one. But still, this one is really pretty. And at the end, what you want to do to the stem is you're going to just take a tiny strip across the grain. So your length is going across the grain like this, so that way you can stretch out the piece like this. And we're going to wrap it around just to secure the very end and make it look nice underneath here. So start it, and then we're going to just wrap that around, adding some glue at intervals. Keep wrapping tightly. You could also use, like I said, floral tape, which might be easier. I don't know, I'm using what I've got. And go down as much as you want, like that. Ta-da! Okay, bye.